Big g'day and welcome to the first edition of the 2017 Ballarat Football Netball League show. My name's Yeendy, the new AFL Goldfields Media Marketing and Events Manager. I'm joined by Melton, Moorabool, Sunbury, Macedon Rangers Star Weekly journalist Tara Murray. Thanks for joining us for the first show to kick off the year.
Thanks for having me. It's been a footy never stops, neither does netball at this time of year, so plenty of news out there.
Yeah, while most clubs sort of relaxed appear to relax in the off-season, they seem to lots happening a bit behind the scenes.
It is, and a fair bit of it's starting to come out now. We're in the new year and I think clearances open again, so I expect to hear a bit more news from a lot of the clubs.
So you're going to be a little bit busier now?
It's always busy. Footy never stops. I think most weeks I have at least one football story, but done quite a few netball stories in the most recent weeks because there's been a lot of netball coaching appointments.
Fantastic. We'll have a bit to cover throughout the show, and apologies for the uniform there. We'll get our new gear very, very soon. Just starting a little bit fresh, so we'll rock and roll it. Looking forward to getting my new Ballarat and AFL Goldfields to highlight a little bit later on. But speaking of later on, the Fev show returns to town. We're very, very much excited with what he's able to bring to Melton South, who've had a few lean seasons for a number of reasons. But for Vola, great recruit to the on a coaching role and maybe a playing role as well at Melton South.
It is. I think even if he doesn't play a lot, to get Brendan Pavola to the Ballarat Football League will get attention to the side, to the league as a whole, and especially Melton South, as you said, had quite a few down years. Didn't win a match last year, so they need something to get them going. They've got Brendan Pavola and Sean Triplett as co-coaches, and they've got those two and then gone out and recruited players. They've sort of put the focus of going from last to first, and off-season, a lot of recruits.
Now, do we know the situation with Fev, whether he'll play all the home games, or is it still being discussed on what he might do?
Not exactly sure. I know he was planning on playing some games. What and how many, I think, would depend on injuries and that as well.
Yeah.
I know he didn't play every game with Deer Park the last few years, so I think it will be a wait and see how many games he does end up playing.
It'll be a case of watch this space. They've got a former Bomber that's joined them for this season, Nick Comer. Being a Bombers girl, it's good to see a former Essendon player running around.
It is, I think, and Comer just needs some luck. He had a breakout year in his first year in the competition, then had injuries and then struggled to get back, and then last year probably his best year fitness-wise, but just couldn't break into that Essendon side. So he got delisted at the end of the year, and I think he just wants to come back and enjoy his football. Obviously, being at Essendon the last few years has not been an easy time with all the drug saga and that sort of thing. So for him to come back to get Melton South, he's one of 3 former AFL players they've now got with Fev, and they've also got Mitch Banner across from Darley. I think Banner may be playing VFL again. I think, if I remember correctly, going back to Williamstown, but you've got 3 former AFL players on the list. That's a big boost without talking about all their other recruits. Well,
certainly a good stepping stone for Melton South. How about the reigning premiers, Bacchus Marsh? They've lost some, they've gained some. What's sort of been the general consensus you've got from them over the course of the pre-season?
I think they've managed to keep most of their side. So of their premiership side, they've only lost 2. They've lost former coach Cam Richardson, who has gone over to play in a different competition just because he doesn't think his body can handle playing Ballarat football week in, week out. And they've also lost former AFL player Damien Cupido, who's moved down to Gippsland. That was something they were expecting during the season. They knew they were going to lose both of those players. But what they've gone out and done is they've got back a few former players who will likely play VFL, but they're getting these former players back into the club, and that includes 2 players who have been recently on AFL lists. So if you're getting those guys playing even 1 or 2 games, even if that, it's just good to have them around the club and saying they want to come back to Bacchus Marsh.
And really boosts the confidence of some of their junior players as well, which I know they've got a really good pedigree around there.
It is, exactly. You mentioned that they've had quite a few players go through the AFL system, and for them to want to come back after they've been in the AFL, that shows something about Bacchus Marsh.
Sunbury Lions, big coaching move over the off-season with Rick Horwood going down to Avondale Heights, but we've seen former Rupert's Wood coach Ben Jordan come up and step into the coaching ranks.
It is, and Ben's pretty familiar with Sunbury because he actually played in Sunbury and played under Rick. So he's been around, he's a Sunbury guy as well, so he's been around the area, been around the league previously, so he brings that experience. And at Rupert's Wood, they played finals, I think both years he was there, and I think he'll bring a lot to the Lions. They have lost a couple of players as well who will be hard to replace, but at the same time you think they're still going to be up there.
Now, talk us about what's happening at Melton. They've had a little bit more experience to the team, which is going to be good for them going forward over at McPherson Park.
It is. They've probably been they've recruited quite a few players, but at the same time, nowhere near as probably outspoken as their crosstown rivals in Melton South. So they've added a few who have TAC Cup experience, VFL experience, just to add a little bit more experience to that group because they are still pretty young. So that's what they sort of need, a few bigger bodies just to make it so they can play out the whole games, because they played in a lot of close games but weren't always getting across the line.
And they've obviously got some good coaching experience as well to help them go forward.
It is. They've still got Brad Murphy at the helm, and he's worked with the boys each year, and I think they only just missed out on finals, and they haven't played finals for quite a while, so I know they'll definitely be a focus this season.
Hopefully get some more excitement down at Mackie Park. Last one, we talk about AFL experience. Darley has recruited someone quite good, former Carlton Collingwood star Heath Scotland. He's taken on the coaching reins, so going to be a bit of excitement there around Darley.
It is. It'll be quite interesting when you get Darley play Melton South, when you've got Fev and Heath Scotland playing against each other and their former teammates. But this is a case of a player coming back to their former club. He played his juniors at Darley, and there was talk about him coming a couple of years ago. So he's only come across this year, but that gives a lot of excitement there. They had a disappointing year last year, a few injuries, finished 6th, made finals, but weren't that overall competitive against the Lions in that first final. So it'll be quite interesting how they go. They have lost Steve Kennedy, who won the Ballarat League Best and Fairest a couple of years ago, and Mitch Banner has also left after one season at the club. So they've added a couple of players. They've added Chris and Brian Graham, who are the brothers of Carlton's Nick Graham.
Oh, yeah.
So it's that connection through. Heath Scotland has got those two across. They've had quite a bit of success in Wyndham Vale. They've also added Dan Roy, who's going to come across as a playing assistant coach, and they've welcomed back a couple of former players in Brad Inglis and Lockie Hearing. So getting those guys on, they're also hopeful to get Darren Leonard and Shane Page, two of the leaders in the club, back from injury, which will add a bit more strength to that side.
So they're looking to get back to some of their premiership winning form from a few years ago.
I think so, or at least not fighting to be in the 6th. They want to be well and truly in that 6th, and they've added that bit more player group, a bit more experience. So hopefully, they can be in that mix again.
Changing gears, we'll turn our attention to netball. There's been a lot happening behind the scenes. We've had a number of new coaches. In fact, 4 new coaches stepping up. Exciting times for all those clubs. Who's taken on the reins over at Darley? A familiar face around the Melton region.
It is a familiar face across the Ballarat Football League and the RDFL Football League. So Renee Howells comes across from Melton and previously Melton Centrals. So she spent last season at Melton as coach there, and she's moved across to Darley, and she'll coach both the A's and B's over there. So she's come across and wants to really bring some of those young girls across. Darley started to show signs last season. They are making that move up to the ladder. I know they had some really good young players. So to add someone with Renee's experience adds a little bit more to that side.
Who are some of the other coaches we've got stepping up?
We have, so in Sunbury Lions, you've got Adam Balderson, who coached the side to the 2015 A-grade grand final. He returns to the club after one season coaching championship division in the VNL. So he comes back and he's looking to add a little bit more stability to the Lions. The Lions had players in and out galore last season, including several players playing in 2 different competitions, and that hit them hard come finals time. So he's looking to get back the same side week in, week out. They will bring back a few of their previous players. I know he's got a couple from the 2015 grand final side looking to return, and he's also in talks with a couple of others, so that will be big for them.
And the Lions have been well known for having a lot of success over a sustained period of time as well.
It was, and they did beat the top sides last year, so on their day they can still match it. They were knocked out in the first week of finals, and I think there's a little bit of drama surrounding that, but the Lions have always been around there, so they still had their Bs and their Cs take out the premiership, and they want to bring some of those players through.
Who else have we got stepping up to lead the way?
You've also got in Melton, they've turned to defender Katie Kowalski, I think you pronounce her last name. So she stepped up into the coaching role. She moved out to the Bloods last season and finished 4th in the league best and fairest. So she's coming towards the end of her career, so she's decided to take on the coaching because she knows she can't play forever. But she can always keep involved with the coaching side of things. So they're looking to get a few players involved, and they're signed her. So it sounds all positive out there because they did miss finals last year after a premiership a couple of years ago.
So they've gone a little bit downhill. Were they a bit in rebuilding phase?
They were a little bit. I think they struggled at times with unavailability.
That happens in sport.
It does, and I know at times they were struggling in the shooting end because they sort of only, at some weeks, only had one proper shooter. So that's always going to hurt when you're relying on one person to shoot most of your goals. So it was a very tough year for all the Moorabool and Melton teams last year. None of them made the finals. So they're all in that group trying to improve and trying to take that next step up. And Bacchus Marsh is another one in that group. So they've appointed Michael Saker as their coach.
What's Michael Saker's background?
He's been heavily involved in the indoor netball scene. So he's played for Australia and he's been involved in coaching setups as well on indoor netball. So he knew their former coach from last year and he's come across to do that. So they've kept a lot of the players from last year and they're looking to have get a few more in. So they're looking firstly just to be more competitive, to run out games, because they were competitive for 2 or 3 quarters, but then couldn't run out games. So for them, if they make finals, that's a bonus. It's just looking on improving on where they finished last year.
Maybe they can draw some inspiration from the boys that won the flag last year and try and get some of that winning premiership success.
It is, and your other side you've got out there is Melton South, who didn't win a game, so they're also looking to improve. So it'll be quite interesting if you can get all of these sides improved and into the final mix. It'll be quite an interesting year.
Well, we'll be urging everyone to check out our website and obviously through the Star Weekly website as well. Tara, thanks so much for jumping on board, and we just sort of make note that we're sort of covering the teams, we're discussing the teams that you cover through your paper as well. We'll do our best to get in touch with the other teams and get some more details and more future shows in the near future to cover the other teams in the competition. Thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you more throughout the year and we appreciate it.